Hello, I'm Jean-Michel Grosjeu and this is already my 5th video about Jim Crone's Space Empire series, published by GMT Games, made of a base game and 3 expansions. And now that you're comfortable with the 4 dimensions of this system, the famous 4x of my first 4 videos, it's time to open the big catalog of technologies, ships and buildings, the big display of everything you'll be able to gather to build the most efficient war fleet. So here we go, this video will be a sort of inventory. And to begin with, let's have a look to the big catalog of technologies. Here is the research chart that you can find in the game and which lists all the technologies you can buy with your RPs. The same technologies you will find at the bottom of the production sheet. This list includes the Move technology with its 7 levels, and that we know since my video number 4. Now let's look at another technology, the ship size technology. It is very important because it determines what type of ships you can build. At the beginning of the game, by default, everyone knows this technology at level 1. Note that the layout is a little bit confusing. The level 1 units are packed in blue characters at the end of the level 2 line. So don't look at the first 2 units on the line, which are level 2. And then, of course, amongst level 1, we find all the ships we already know. SC Scouts, CO Colony Ships, SY Shipyards, Miners, and then 2 other ships we don't know yet. Let's refresh our minds. The Scout, not much to say. This is the first combat ship you can build. It's not a killer, but it's the only combat ship available at level 1, so at the beginning of the game you'll have no other choice. The colony ship, the ship you land on an unexplored planet to make it a colony. This ship cannot fight, there is no combat capability on its token, so if it gets caught up in a battle, it must end up in screening as we saw in video number 3. Colony ships cannot explore and they cannot form a group. One colony ship token always stands for one single ship. And like all other non-combat ships, it always moves a single hexagon per turn, regardless of the move technology. There's nothing you can do to make it move faster than 1 hexagon per turn. To say it another way, move technology only applies to combat ships. Then there's the mining ship, whose job is to load the mineral and bring it back to colonies where it will be exploited. It's a non-combat ship, so it cannot form a group, 1 ship per token, and that's it. It cannot explore, and it can only move 1 hexagon per turn, regardless of the move technology level. And finally, shipyards. Oh, this unit is a combat unit indeed. It has combat values on its token, so it can fight, but it cannot move. This shipyard is a kind of factory on the planet's surface, or at the very least, flying on a low orbit. In game terms, a shipyard cannot move. Its purpose is to produce all the other units, all except the shipyards themselves, which don't need other shipyards. And it is also in this building that ships must return to update their technology. The shipyard itself doesn't need another shipyard to update its own technology. We've also seen that there are limitations on the construction capacity of shipyards, but at least you can accumulate as many shipyards as you want on a planet, and that's what players usually do to form large ship production centers. Fine, and there are 2 more ships you can build with ship size technology on level 1. First, the Decoy. It's a very special ship, a kind of fake ship, and we'll see how it works and what it's used for in the next video number 6. And finally, there's the MS pipeline. MS stands for merchant ships. The goal of these pipeline units is to create merchant routes within your empire. So, the MS pipeline is a non-combat unit. It cannot form a group. One token equals one ship. It can only move one hexagon regardless of the move technology level, and it cannot explore. But despite all that, it's very useful. Let's take an example. Yellow player has 2 colonies, and on his home planet he has 4 shipyards. This is the economic phase. The 3 planets produce 30 CPs, and yellow player wants to build pipelines merchant ships. Each one costs 3 CPs, so he builds 4 of them, which is the maximum production capacity for his 4 shipyards. And so he adds 4 pipeline tokens on his planet because, as it's a non-combat unit, he cannot just put a 4 counter underneath it. Turn 1. Each pipeline can move 1 hexagon. Whatever the move technology level, pipeline movement is always 1. You'll notice that I've left 1 pipeline back on the home planet. You'll understand very soon why I did that. Turn 2, movement goes on, 1 hexagon, and I decide again that one of the pipelines stays where it is. Turn 3, we end the movement on a pretty nice chain because, as we'll see, that's exactly how pipelines work. Economic phase, and here's why we did all that. A colony planet linked back to the home planet by a continuous chain of pipelines produces 1 more CP. This is called a merchant link, and in our example, since the Valhalla colony is linked to the home planet by a convoy of pipelines, it produces 6 CPs instead of 5 for a total production of 31. On the production sheet, there's a special line for recording pipelines bonus CPs. And you'll notice that for the moment, the other colony, Aldir, only produces the usual 5 CPs. That's because it's not yet connected to the home planet. The last hexagon is missing 1 pipeline. For the link to be established, you need a pipeline on the home planet, 1 on the colony, and 1 in each hexagon in between. So, a 1 CP bonus may sound like nothing, but it's a permanent bonus that lasts for the whole game. And with 28 pipeline tokens available, yes, you heard me right, 28, pipeline is by far the most widespread token in the game. Each player can establish a network between all his colonies and thus add up this little bonus of 1 CP for all the planets he discovers or steals from his neighbors. In Space Empires, small streams make big rivers. Please note that these merchant activities only generate CPs. So if, for example, there's a research center on Valhalla, this colony now generates 10 RPs plus 1 bonus CP for the merchant link. Let's go on with our example. Production, yellow player produces 1 new pipeline unit, the one he needs to reach his second colony, and a scout ship. Turn 1. It's time to move units, and here is the second interesting pipelines property, what we might call the pipelines highway. If any unit moves exclusively on hexagons occupied by pipelines of its own color of course, then that unit can move an additional 1 hexagon. So for example, if I want to move the pipeline I've just produced, normally a pipeline can only move 1 hexagon per turn, but since it's able to move exclusively on a chain of pipelines, it gets a 1 move bonus, 1 plus 1. Here we are, and I insist that in order to get this movement bonus, our unit had to move exclusively on hexagons belonging to the highway. We therefore needed 3 pipeline units, one in the starting hexagon, one in the arrival hexagon, and one in the middle hexagon. And there's the second condition. The pipeline units forming the highway must be active. What does it mean, active? Well, it's simple. By default, a pipeline unit is always active. Look, it's written on its token. But if it moves, you flip the token and it's no longer active, it's moved. For example, the pipeline unit we've just moved along the highway is moved. It is no longer active, its token has been flipped. Now, if 1. I move the last 2 pipelines to extend my highway to the Haldir colony, and then 2. I move the scout, let's assume he doesn't have any particular move technology, he can move only 1 hexagon. But if he uses the pipeline highway, he can move 2 hexagons, right? Well, no, because the pipeline unit in the last hexagon is not active, it's moved. So, the scout can advance 1 hexagon as normal, but it doesn't get the +1 bonus for the pipeline highway. That being said, if you go back a little on this example and decide to do the same move but in a different order, 1. You first move the scout, now he's got a highway of active pipelines in front of him, so he gets a +1 movement bonus. And then 2. You move the pipelines themselves. The order in which units are moved can be very important. And finally, note that a pipeline unit, as long as it's active, can grant a movement bonus to several units moving through its hexagon. There's no limit. And that's it. At the end of the movement phase, before playing the next turn, all pipeline units are flipped back to their active side. Now we've gone through all the ship size 1 units that each player can build from the start of the game without any special technology. But of course, as the game progresses, players can buy level 2 in the ship size technology with 10 research points. Please note that on the sheet, costs are always written in CPs. I remind you that as we play with research centers, technology costs are always paid in RPs and never in CPs. With that in mind, after paying the 10 RPs, yellow player notes on its progression sheet that his empire has reached level 2 in the ship size technology. Thanks to that, he can now build 2 new units, the destroyer and the base. And of course, he can always build level 1 units. So, the base is a ground unit, and I leave it aside until my video number 9 when we will talk about ground operations. In the meantime, there's also the destroyer, a much simpler unit, so simple that I don't have much to say. It's a combat unit, as you can see from the combat values on its token. The destroyer's qualities are best understood by comparing them to the scout we know so well. If, for example, a yellow destroyer were to fight a red scout, first of all, the destroyer will strike first thanks to its class letter D, which has priority over letter E. Then it would have to roll a 4 or less on a die, its attack 4 minus the scout's defense 0. In return, the scout would have to roll a 3. The destroyer has 1 hit point like the scout. So, the destroyer is a little better than the scout, and we'll see soon that the destroyer also benefits from a special technology, the scanner. Here, I'd like to point out some kind of bad naming choice that may confuse you a little. A ship's hit point, that is, the amount of damage it can take before it's destroyed, is the number on the token known as its hull size. A single point of damage is enough to eliminate the destroyer. But in order to build the destroyer, you need your ship size technology at level 2. So we use the word size for 2 different things. The hull size and the ship size. 2 sizes that should not be confused. It's a bit clumsy, but if you take care, it should not be the end of the world. Okay, now we are going to speed things up a bit and we move on to the next level of technology, ship size 3, which enables the construction of a new ship, the cruiser, abbreviation CA. We've gone up a class again with the letter C, and this ship has a defense of 1 and 2 hit points to make it tougher. And there's more progress to come with the ship size level 4, the battle cruiser, class B, attack 5, then ship size level 5, the battleship BB. We reach class A, the highest priority ship class, which will always attack first, defense 2 and 3 hit points. Finally, ship size level 6 allows you to build dreadnoughts with attack 6 and defense 3. And there's another level up, ship size level 7, which lets you build Titans. But Titans are very special ships and deserve a whole chapter of special rules, which I'll save for video number 8. So, for the moment, I'll just complete my diagram with the Scout on the left, which is the level 1 warship, and tada! Here you have all the warships according to the level you've reached in the ship size technology. To climb the whole ladder, you'll have to spend 10 RPs, then 15, then 23 times, for a total of 85 RPs, which is quite huge. And don't forget that above that, you'll have to pay the cost for manufacturing each ship, a cost expressed in CPs this time. So, if you really want to play the arms race, you'll need a very solid economy. Fine, it's a pretty picture and a nice goal to pursue, but there are other ways to outdo your opponents on the battlefield. There are other military technologies to be developed. And first, there are 3 technologies that can give you a significant advantage: attack, defense, and tactics. These 3 technologies start at level 0, so if you don't invest in them, you've got nothing. The attack technology gives a +1 attack bonus for each level acquired. +1 to every attack on every ship. It's not a small advantage. You remember the combat resolution process. When the die is rolled, the result is compared to the shooter's attack value. So this attack bonus directly increases this attack value. A scout with a level 1 attack technology rolls as if he had an attack value of 4. Please note that a ship cannot benefit from an attack technology bonus greater than its hull size, its number of hit points. So, for example, raising your attack technology to level 2 is useless if you only have scouts, because a scout cannot benefit from a +2 attack. +1 is the maximum bonus for a hull size 1 unit. There is a level 4 attack technology, but this level 4 is made for very specific units, the Titan and the base. More on that later. For now, forget about level 4. The defense technology works exactly the same, but applied to defense. With the same limit, the defense bonus must always be less than or equal to the ship's hull size. And finally, there's the tactics technology, which gives fire priority to ships of equal class. It happens here in the fight sequence. Usually, when 2 ships have the same class letter, the defender shoots first. But if one of the tied ships has a higher tactics technology, this ship shoots first. It may not sound like a great advantage, but in a game where no shots are ever fired simultaneously, determining who shoots first can really make all the difference. And there's no size limit. A hull size 1 scout may have a level 3 in tactics technology. Bear in mind that a ship inherits the attack, defense and tactics technology levels that exist at the time it is built. This means that ships built at different times may have different technology levels. Here, for example, the Yellow Empire as a whole has developed level 2 attack technology and level 1 tactics. But if we look at his ship technology sheet, we can see that his SC1 Scout is not up to date in tactics, and the same goes for his cruiser. So, if you think about it, it is not enough to invest in research, you also have to manage your fleet so that your ships are technologically up to date, even if it means going back to the shipyard in order to upgrade. Now let's go down the technology chart to the SY technology. SY stands for Shipyard, the Shipyard technology. At the beginning of the game, all players have level 1 in this technology, and this level 1 allows each shipyard to produce a size 1 ship. We are talking about the hull size written on the ship counters. Let's say that I want to build a hull size 3 dreadnought, assuming I have ship size technology level 6 that I need to build dreadnoughts. Well, to produce its hull size of 3, I need 3 level 1 shipyards. And, you guessed it, with the level 2 shipyard technology, I can build the same dreadnought with just 2 shipyards, since each shipyard can produce now a 1.5 size ship. 2 shipyards, that gives 2 times 1.5 equals 3, so it's okay to build a hull size 3 dreadnought. And with the level 3 shipyard technology, 1 shipyard can build 2 points of hull size. In other words, shipyard construction capacity is driven by the shipyard technology. Next technology, exploration, is just above in the table. At level 0, as seen in video number 1, all battleships have the ability to explore the hexagon they are in. In the movement phase, the yellow cruiser moves 1 hexagon, and in the exploration phase, he flips the token in his hexagon and he discovers, for example, minerals. This is basic exploration, level 0 exploration. But then, at level 1, the same cruiser can explore an adjacent hexagon before its movement. It is the beginning of the turn, movement phase. Before moving, the cruiser can look at an adjacent token. It is now adjacent to 5 face-down tokens. It must choose one of them. It chooses to look at a white-colored token because these tokens correspond to deep space. We'll study deep space in video number 7, but you should know that these tokens are generally more dangerous than the colored tokens found in players' own systems. And he was right to be cautious because it's a danger token who could have eliminated his ship. So, you can see how interesting it is. Thanks to the level 1 exploration technology, ships can look at adjacent tokens without having to move into their hexagon, and therefore without triggering them. And even better, now that he's had a look at the token, he can choose either to leave it as it is, face up, or to flip it face down as it was before. Yellow player is then the only one to have seen the danger the token was hiding, and in the next movement phase, he chooses to advance to a safer hexagon with a yellow back token. And he can still explore it normally, by flipping the token on his own hexagon. It's an asteroid field, for example. So, in fact, the level 1 exploration technology allows 2 explorations per turn, 1 adjacent before the movement and 1 in the ship's final hexagon. And note that only the cruiser can do this. So, if you want to take advantage to this level 1 exploration technology, you must first develop the level 3 ship size technology to be able to build cruisers. There's also a level 2 exploration technology, but it's a more advanced technique that we will see later in video number 8. Well, while we are talking about exploration, you remember that in video number 1 I showed everything you could find in your personal system, and among that list were a few things we haven't yet talked about. So, it's time to take a look around. Starting with the Barren planet. Among the 9 planets you'll find in your system, there are 8 standard planets which you'll colonize and then exploit, and there is a 9th planet, the Barren planet. For yellow player, it is called Draconis, with the word Barren on its token. So, A barren planet is an unwelcoming planet, not really suited for life. It's simple, you cannot colonize it. No need to send a colony ship. Unless you know level 1 terraforming technology. In this case, your colony ships become able to colonize barren planets as if they were standard planets. Fine, but there's a little issue here that we need to talk about. Colony ships are not numbered and they cannot be found on the ship technology progression sheet. Well, according to the official rules, you should have to keep track of which colony ships already have the terraforming technology and which ones have to go back to the shipyard to upgrade. Although there is no way of noting this, no token, no line on the technology sheet. So you do as you like, but personally I don't think it's worth the trouble just to find out who can colonize barren planets. And I propose that when you buy it, terraforming technology be immediately given to all your colony ships on the map. No need to go back to the shipyard to upgrade. It's up to you in your games to play with this home rule or to keep the official rule. Also, terraforming technology has level 2, but it's not used when playing with facilities which include research centers and their RPs, so I won't be talking about it in my videos. Then there's the asteroid field. There are 2 in each player's system. Asteroids are first and foremost an obstacle to movement. To enter a hexagon with the asteroid field, you must begin your move in an adjacent hexagon. So, even though this destroyer benefits from a level 4 move technology that gives it a 2 hexagon move capacity, it cannot enter this asteroid field. And if on his next turn he enters the asteroid field, because now he started the turn on an adjacent hexagon, he has to stop, because you cannot fly through an asteroid field in a single move. And asteroids also hinder combat. All units fighting in an asteroid field do so as if they were E-class units. So here, this gives the Red Scout an opportunity, since it lowers the destroyer's class to E, just like him. And finally, asteroids cancel the attack technology's bonuses. They don't cancel the attack itself, of course. Here, the destroyer still has an attack of 4 and the scout an attack of 3, but their bonuses linked to the attack technology are cancelled. The other combat technologies, defense and tactics, work as normal. Nebulae can also be found. There are 2 of them per player's system, and they work exactly like asteroid fields. They hinder movement in the same way, and for combat, they reduce combat classes to E and eliminate defense bonuses. Be careful, I hope you catch the nuance. Asteroids and nebulae are exactly the same thing, except that asteroids cancel the attack technology bonus, while nebulae cancel the defense technology bonus. Some rules allow nebula mining. These rules don't apply to our games and therefore I won't teach them because they are incompatible with the use of research centers. We will also see on a later video that nebulae prevent cloaking, which is a special stealth technology. And finally, there's the one you are all waiting for. Let me introduce the famous black hole. There's one in every player's system. Let's take an example. This destroyer in its movement phase enters an unexplored hexagon. And in the exploration phase, it flips the token to discover, guess what? A black hole. And so when a ship enters a black hole, whether because it discovers it while exploring the hexagon, or whether it's a ship that voluntarily enters an already known black hole, in all cases, the ship rolls a die to see if it survives the encounter. On a result of 7 to 10, that's a 40% chance, it is eliminated. And if it's a group of ships, as here if there were not 1 but 3 destroyers, you roll 1 die per ship. In our example, 1 destroyer out of the 3 is eliminated. On the other hand, if on the next turn the 2 surviving destroyers remain there without moving, there is no risk anymore. You roll the die only when your ship enters the black hole's hexagon. So we can say that a black hole is quite a standard hexagon. You can enter it, you can even fly through it, but as soon as you enter it, each ship must roll a die and has a 40% chance of not getting out alive. The most reckless of you can even voluntarily enter a black hole, hoping to use its extreme gravity to propel your ships even further. This is called a gravitational slingshot. Let's suppose a group of 3 destroyers, again, is flying toward an already known black hole. They don't need to start adjacent, it's not an asteroid field or a nebula. The group has enough movement points to enter the black hole. And as he enters the hexagon, he declares that he will try to use the gravitational slingshot effect. In doing so, he takes a risk, and he will have to make his dangerous die roll with a +2 modifier. In our example, the 3 destroyers declare that they will try the gravity slingshot. With the +2, 2 of the 3 rolls fail, so 2 destroyers are eliminated and only 1 survives. But all survivors are propelled by the slingshot effect and continue their movement with an extra movement point. Let's suppose our destroyer has a movement capacity of 2. It has spent 1 to enter the black hole. It had 1 left, but the slingshot effect adds 1 as a bonus. It therefore ends up with 2 more hexagons. Remember that the use of this gravitational slingshot effect must be announced before the dice are rolled. Of course, once you've seen the result, it would be too easy. Okay, but then 2 destroyers were eliminated so that the third gets a 1 movement bonus. Is it really worth it? Well, it depends on the context, and I leave it to you to decide. Okay, asteroids, nebulae and black holes hinder movement. Now, if a pipeline unit enters one of them, its movement is affected in the same way. For the asteroids and nebula, it has to stop, and for the black hole, it must roll a die and survive. Fine. But if later this unit is part of a pipeline chain, any of yellow players' units can use this highway to move through the obstacle. For example, let's suppose that these 3 units have a movement capacity of just 1 hexagon. Then, not only can they move an extra hexagon thanks to the pipeline highway, but more than that, they are not stopped by the asteroids or the nebula, and they don't have to roll any die, and therefore they risk nothing when flying through the black hole. Of course, a ship that moves through the black hole using the pipeline bonus cannot benefit from the gravitational slingshot. It's one or the other, the safe highway or the risky slingshot. And voila! With this video we've seen a lot. We've completed the inventory of everything you can find by exploring your home system. And above all, we've unfolded a first list of what you can buy with the CPs and RPs, mainly ships and technologies. So we are still a long way from knowing everything. There are still a lot of ships and a lot of technologies to discover, but I'm saving that for video number 8, which will complete the list. The next video, number 6, will take a break to study a special topic which makes Space Empires so original on the Wargames and 4X scene. And this topic is secrecy and fog of war. And you'll discover with the next video the joys of flying blind and launching your fleet towards an unknown enemy.